Alright, hello, and welcome to a Lumines video. My name's Ristretto, and I wanted to take some time this weekend to share a little bit about this game that's just come out, Lumines Arise. I've been enjoying it a lot and thinking about it a lot, and so I just wanted to get to play a little bit and talk into a microphone about it. I've seen a lot of really good players post a lot of really good Lumines footage of themselves doing really well in this game, but not so much footage of people talking over it and sharing some thoughts around it, and so I wanted to do a bit of that today. I've played some of this studio's other games, like the older Lumines games and Tetris Effect, and I've really enjoyed them, but with this game coming out, I've been trying to get a little more back into Lumines. I've never really gotten super deep into it, and so it's been really fun. If you've ever gotten into a puzzle game, you might know the feeling of your brain kind of getting used to matching lots of patterns and moving quicker and quicker and getting a little better at it, and it can be very satisfying. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that. And so we're going to start with this game's main mode, which is the journey mode. I've mostly been playing it on hard, which has been interesting. I'll get into a little bit of that, but I guess I'm going to play through a little bit of this and talk just a little bit about Lumines. We'll go from there. Now, if you're searching out Lumines gameplay with commentary, you probably know what Lumines is. But if you don't, it's kind of like Tetris. You drop blocks into a well, and then what makes it different from Tetris is rather than clearing a whole line across the screen, you place down these blocks, and when they form 2x2 squares, the line that goes across the playfield will then clear them out. You can actually expand those 2x2 squares into bigger clumps, and so that's the basics of the game. Is you drop blocks, you want to try and clear them by forming certain shapes. I haven't recorded gameplay like this in a while, so we'll see if I'm okay at talking or if it's kind of messy. I used to stream and share a lot of Monster Hunter gameplay, but I haven't been doing as much of that for the last little while, and so I might be a little rusty. We'll see. Now, there are ways you have to play if you want to score a lot more points. I'm not great at that. I'll talk a little bit about that, I think, when we finish this segment of the game. But this is kind of what Lumines gameplay looks like. It is different enough from Tetris that, at least for my brain, it feels like when I'm playing Lumines, my brain has to think about dropping blocks and kind of building the shapes a little differently, and that's satisfying. I've played a lot of Tetris over the years. I'm not like amazing at it, but good enough that I don't have to think about it so much when I'm playing, where with Lumines, I'm new enough at it that it's still very new and satisfying for my brain to figure out where to drop things. You can see on the right side of the screen, there are a certain number of squares I need to clear to get past this level, and then we're going to move on to another level. This main journey mode kind of cycles through different skins or different levels that all have different musical and visual affects to them. Some of them are a little faster, some of them a little slower, which is something I really appreciate about these latest games from this studio, is it's not just a puzzle game that gets harder and harder and faster, although there are modes like that in this game. But as you play through, the speed ratchets up and ratchets down, and it feels like a journey, which is part of why they call it journey mode, I think. And I think they do a really good job of timing those different tempo changes right as you need them. Like, you've been going through a really fast segment for a while, and it slows down, kind of just in the nick of time. One of the reasons I wanted to make a video like this was just to kind of, I guess, give myself a little progress log for like how I'm doing with the game. I was looking at, I'm not good enough to post like a bunch of high score videos, and I was like, well, I still want to share about this game because it's so good and I'm enjoying it so much, and I want to have more reason to talk about it and think about it. And I don't know. I was trying to think of what kind of video would be interesting to watch, and so I have a few thoughts I'm going to share, but also I just kind of wanted to record this as a progress log for myself of like, the week the game first came out, here's what my play looks like. Maybe I'll go back later on and say, oh, I got better, that's cool. But that's kind of a personal thing. I don't expect you to be particularly invested in me getting better at a puzzle game. We'll see. Why I was talking about that is that I'm already feeling like I'm getting to a point, at least and we'll see if I feel like this the whole time I'm playing. I feel like I'm getting to a point where I'm not so worried about topping out. Like I'm getting comfortable enough with forming shapes where even if it gets a little close to the top of the screen there, I know it's going to be okay, which is something I can do in Tetris. And if you play a lot of Tetris, you're probably comfortable with getting pretty close to the top of the screen. As long as your stack is built reasonably cleanly, you can expect to be able to break all the blocks down and clear it back out again. And the same holds true here. Alright, so we're moving into the next skin. It's been kind of neat. Like I said, I'm not amazing at Tetris, but I am pretty comfortable and familiar with Tetris, and so it's been neat to get to compare. It's been a lot of years since I got my chops at Tetris. I was living with a friend and we both played Tetris a ton together, and that's been many years ago now. So it's been a little while since I've sunk into a new puzzle game in a way where it's I don't know, you go to sleep, you're seeing blocks. You're kind of you close your eyes, you're thinking about blocks. That's what my life's been like the last couple of days. I've been thinking about blocks a lot. I lead an exciting existence. From what I know about actually getting a really good score, you want to try and be building up and then maintaining a combo. And how that works is you want to clear at least 4 2x2 squares every time the metronome comes through. And do that on repeat forever and ever, and that will build up to I think a times 16 combo to multiply your points that you're getting, and then you just want to maintain that as long as you can. And I'm just not that quick with it yet. And you can just really spam blocks really quickly like I'm doing here to get them out and then start matching up the shapes, but I'm thinking about it a little bit like I would think about Tetris, where in order to kind of build well quickly, you kind of have to get used to building well slowly, I feel. And Lumines is a little different, where as things clear out, it feels like it's more fluid to clear things out. You can clear out a lot of shapes a lot more ways than Tetris is how it feels to me. And so it's a little less important to build super cleanly, but I still feel maybe in terms of practice and learning, getting used to building sort of cleanly, sort of slowly might help me before I try and really ratchet up the speed and go, all right, I'm going to maintain that times 16 combo. At least that's how I'm thinking about it right now. Oops. That little block with the plus, again, if you haven't played Lumines, that's called the chain block. Basically, you drop that, and even if it doesn't form a 2x2 square, any adjacent squares of the same color will clear out. So there's a few different mechanics. Another one that I haven't touched yet, and I probably won't touch on quite yet, is called Burst. I'm going to talk about Burst once we're done with this little journey segment, but essentially it's not just dropping blocks. There are a few other mechanics you get to play around with that can kind of save your butt if things are going poorly. These levels are in chunks of 3 or 4. I think this is the third of 4 levels or 4 skins that we're going to play really quickly here in Journey. I do not intend to go through the whole game. I guess I haven't played through all of Journey quite yet. I have been kind of savoring it, if that makes sense. I've been going back over some of the same segments with the idea that maybe the first time I get through the whole game, I want to play through all of it in one go, starting from the beginning, playing all the way through to the end. But I just haven't been in a rush to experience the whole journey really, really quickly, or the whole journey mode. That's where all the different visuals and music that you get to experience are, is in journey mode, where most of the music is. There's a few tracks that might be specific to the multiplayer or the tutorial or whatever, but in terms of the visuals and the music that you get to enjoy, most of that is going to come from the journey mode. So I'm in no rush to have experienced all of that. Part of that might come from the older Lumines games. In the older Lumines games, you had to play through it in all one sitting. Every time you started over, you started from the beginning. And so in order to see all of the music in those older games, you had to basically get really good and play through the whole game all in one go. This game gives you the option to keep going. You kind of pick up from where you've left off or pick up from where you lost, which is nice. But I guess maybe I'm used to Lumines doling out its music a little slower, a little more over time. I have thought about that a little bit too. I don't have a whole lot of in-depth thoughts to share about that in this video, I don't think, but I have had the thought. I wonder how much of my experience with this game is me saying oh, I want to recreate how I've enjoyed the older Lumines games, when this is a pretty different game. I mean, it is the same puzzle game underneath, but some of the details, the trappings, the mechanics are a little different. Oops. If you're someone who gets stressed out or gets some anxiety from puzzle games such as this, there are some different settings that let you tone down the speed and like make it so you can't even top out, make it so the blocks don't even fall. So there are definitely ways to just kind of treat this as a cozy game to vibe out with and not just something where you have to deal with the speed or the points or whatever. In the past, I've kind of just treated Lumines as a zone out game, but in this game I am paying a little more attention to the different mechanics and the different ways that score is calculated and stuff like that. I don't know that I have an ambition to be super good at it, but I guess improving feels good. It's not like I want to get high scores as much as just like improvement is something that feels fun to me when it comes to puzzle games like this. And so I guess I'm paying attention for the sake of slowly, gradually, potentially improving. Something, I was watching a live stream from the developers of this game the other day, and something they highlighted is that different tracks have different tempos. I guess I touched on that a little bit earlier where I said different levels have different speeds, but that influences how quickly that metronome line or the clear line goes across the field and clears out blocks, and so that can actually influence how you build or how easy or how difficult it is to build up a whole bunch of blocks that are going to get cleared out, maintain a combo, or maybe stack up too many and end up topping yourself out, which I think is neat. I don't think I'm well spoken enough or played enough of this game to like break down really big differences between this and Tetris in a way that would be satisfying to me or to you maybe. But it's fair to say that like I think this game, I think it's easy to look at a game like this and be like, oh, it's kind of like Tetris, whatever. I like Tetris, I'll just keep playing that. Where I think this game really does have its own thing, not just visual-wise and music-wise, but I think this game does play quite differently. And it does feel a little differently when you're in the zone with this game, so. More fluid, somehow. That's all I got for you on that. But this is going to be the last stage of Journey we're going to play, and then I'll move on to talking just a little bit about some of the other modes and something that's been helping me a little bit as I've been playing. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll do a burst here. I said I wasn't going to, but I guess I'm going to after all. So this is another mechanic that's in this game, is you get to charge this up. And it works a little particularly. Maybe I'll talk about it in a second here, but essentially you get to clear as many of one color block as possible in a big burst, and it flings other blocks off the playfield. But it's a little tricky, it's a little weird. It's not like incredibly difficult to understand or to play around. Like I wasn't, it's almost never something that's gonna make you lose or anything. But it's a little tricky, and I've seen other people who are also a little bit like, I don't entirely understand how that mechanic works, and so I want to share something in a minute that helped me a little bit with getting a little better with that mechanic. So I think that could be helpful to you too if you're playing Lumines. If this is your first time seeing Lumines, you might also think, oh wow, this is pretty quick. He's playing pretty quickly. No. There are people who are so much faster at this game, so incredibly quick with how quickly they're dropping and manipulating the pieces. It's like their brain's working at like a higher frame rate than mine is. It's insane. I don't even know how else to describe it, but that is just so crazy how quick some people are at this game. That's one of the themes I've been feeling myself, is that like it can either be discouraging to see somebody that's so much faster, or see a score that's so far away that you can't hit right now. But I've also found it to be at least a little bit like encouraging or inspiring or exciting to say like, hey, if this is a game I keep enjoying and playing for a long time, I guess there's a big ceiling for how quick I could get or what sort of scores I could get, that sort of thing. So there we go. We played through the first 4 levels of Journey. And so this next thing that happens is actually a change from previous Lumines games. Like I mentioned before, in older Lumines games, you would just keep playing all the way through. In this game, once you go through a couple levels, it ends and the game gives you a grade, and I get a C. I have never gotten a score other than a C. It is invariably C for me. Now, I think that's because I'm playing on hard. If you played on normal or easy, it would probably be easier to get a higher rank. And I'm okay with that, but I feel like it's interesting because I can kind of hang with how quickly the blocks are falling. Like I can survive just fine in these hard levels, but my scores are all C. So I've played through these couple first bits of levels here. I've played through these many, and in all of them, invariably, I've gotten a C. So again, that can be a little humbling, a little discouraging, but also sort of like, okay, I've got a lot of room where I could improve, which is, I don't know, that's kind of exciting too. So that's Journey mode. That's sort of the main mode in the game. I have definitely enjoyed my time with it, and like I mentioned, I'm kind of savoring it. I'm not rushing through that or trying to experience it all on the first day. There is multiplayer in this game and like other modes in this game, and they do actually have like a little weekend multiplayer event where like everybody works towards a big goal together. So I want to share a little bit about this menu over here. I think something I wanted to share just for anybody looking at this game is that even though this says multiplayer, there are lots of modes in here that are single player and like training, and like there's a whole like tutorial missions challenges mode, but then also there are kind of time attack and little solo modes in the multiplayer menu as well. The weekend event was like everybody who plays is all working towards a big goal in the top left there, and then this astronaut has been made very happy because we all got 5 million points. There are little cosmetics. You can customize what your little avatar there looks like, and so when everybody got to that 5,000 or 5 million points rather, it unlocked a little astronaut head. It's a cute aesthetic in here. So in the multiplayer, there's an actual versus, which is kind of like Tetris versus, where you're like sending each other garbage, and especially like Tetris Effects versus, where you can kind of send big bursts back at one another of garbage blocks. It's very much like that. It's pretty fun. There are some crazy fast, crazy good players in there, and it's another opportunity for me to be like, well, I could be discouraged by getting destroyed, or I could be like, wow, that's really cool to see. Like, it's nuts how fast people are. Maybe someday I will be like that too, or maybe not. We'll see. What I specifically wanted to show in here is this mode called Quick Burst. So I did that one burst in Journey mode, and I think Burst, I've seen a lot of people online say like, how does Burst work? How do I get better at it? I'm not like some savant at it or anything, but when I was watching the developers, and then even before the developers showed this off yesterday, I came in here, and this mode right here called Quick Burst is a solo mode. It's not multiplayer. It is like put to a leaderboard, but it's not like a multiplayer mode. And then here, this is kind of like a sandbox where like, I guess you can top out, but there's no time limit. There's no like maximum number of squares you're allowed to clear, and like you can just screw around in here and play like normal, but what the goal is to build up blocks and get as large of a burst as possible. And so something that I've really enjoyed doing in here is just kind of screwing around, basically treating this less like a, oh, I gotta get the high score or a leaderboard mode, and more just like, I just want to screw around and better understand how the burst works. So what I'm gonna do here to kind of show you guys what I've done for this, and just to give an example, is I'm gonna try and clear as many of those white squares with burst as possible. And so for the time being, I'm gonna throw blocks that don't have a lot of white squares over on the right-hand side of the field, and I'm going to try and build up as many squares that are kind of saturated with the lighter colored blocks as possible. So this one I'm about to drop that has 3 white blocks, I'm gonna put it over there. This one that's got 3 gray, I'm gonna drop it over there instead. Doing this, playing around in this mode, specifically this like quick burst, has really helped me understand how the burst works a little better, but it also has just, I think it's like, part of why I wanted to share about this so much, this quick burst mode, is that, for one, I think it's a little confusing that it's like a solo mode that lives in the multiplayer screen. Like, I feel like a lot of players might be confused by the verbiage around like, oh, I went to the multiplayer lobby, but there are these cool solo modes as well. Like, I don't know if a lot of players will know to look for these there, so that's part of why I wanted to record this. But I think screwing around in here has actually just helped me feel a lot more comfortable with the game in general for like a variety of reasons. Like, I feel like I'm getting a little better at manipulating the pieces, and I don't know why specifically a sandbox mode helped me to feel better about that, but it just does. I feel a little more comfortable moving the pieces around. It feels like it's definitely helped with that in a way where I wouldn't necessarily have predicted it would. So I'm just going through here, building up as many light colored blocks on that left side of the screen. And there are community patterns that have already been found and like agreed upon. It's like, this is the best pattern, this is what you want to build, and then you try and get the best burst possible. I'm not necessarily trying to do that, and I haven't gone out of my way to learn those, so I'm just kind of working with what the game gives me. And then we'll see if we can do the burst. It's also made me a little more comfortable building in, oops, well, we're gonna do the burst because I misdropped that, but that's okay. But essentially, like, having a lot more garbage on the field of the color that you're trying to form will kind of leap forwards in a way. And it's a little hard for me to describe this as I'm trying to do it here. Ugh. I'm not getting the blocks I want to drop, but that's okay. But I think this is a good way of practicing and like getting to kind of experiment with the burst. Like I've tried just like, if we could just let her rip right here, and I could try and form squares like this and see how many I can form without building at all. And so you get to try out different tactics. Like, should I drop a whole bunch of blocks first? Should they be in a particular pattern? Does it matter where I drop the blocks around? Because it's like a little tricky if you're kind of stressed out and you're in the journey mode and you're trying not to top out. You're really trying to get further than you have in the journey mode or something. It can be stressful to try and experiment or pay attention to how the burst works. So you can see I got fewer there because I hadn't built up a lot of blocks around it. I can see this video is getting a little long now, so I'm going to do one more here, one more burst. And I guess that would just be the main thing I wanted to share, is I wanted to share a little bit about just this game in general, because I think it's quite fun, and I'm enjoying myself with it a lot. I think it's worth experiencing. But also, if you're playing this game like I am, maybe not trying to get a high score, but just trying to get a little better at the game, and you're not really sure how this burst thing works, coming in here and just treating it as like a little practice mode, I found to be like helpful, kind of addictive to just come in here and screw around with it. Because it is fun to see what like the highest burst you can get is, even if you're trying not trying to necessarily be like optimal with it. You're not using the absolute best strategy. Oops. And I think I was kind of impressed that, like, I thought, I guessed that screwing around in this mode would help me feel more comfortable with the burst. I didn't expect that it would help me feel more comfortable with, like, building in a constrained space, like on this right-hand side. Like, I just feel more comfortable with playing in a narrow space like this, which is helpful in the main game as well. I didn't expect that would be the case. So I would just heartily recommend screwing around like this. It's been nice. Getting a little crowded over there. Okay, almost ready for the burst. We'll try it from the middle. I haven't really done it from the middle too many times, but we'll drop this block and then this one, and then we'll activate it. We'll see if building from the middle feels more advantageous than building from the sides. It's also just kind of RNG, because you do have to, like, you need to continue dropping blocks on it, and if you only get blocks of the other color, it can make it so it's really difficult to grow the burst. There, 213, that's not bad. I think the most I've ever gotten is around 250, so 213 is not too far off, but there you go. So I would definitely recommend checking out that little sandbox mode, and there you go. This is just kind of a check-in for me to see how I was playing the game, some early thoughts on this fun new Lumines game. And like I said, I didn't see too many people out there who were sharing like thoughts, commentary on top of their gameplay as they were playing, so I thought I would put a little bit of that out there into the YouTube and hope that it would be nice or helpful or something for somebody. Again, my name's Ristretto. I'll see you guys maybe again for another one of these little check-ins in the future, but for now, bye-bye. I hope you guys have a nice weekend, and cheers.